This is the second of 3 deep dives covering the relational capacity infographic. And I borrowed the iceberg metaphor because it illustrates the deep and wide formation of insights which schools need to scale to the wide array of emotional needs and developmental challenges kids bring to school. But like I explained in part 1, if schools are still heavily invested in behavior thinking and cognitive behavioral methods, they are only responding from habit, the most superficial level of this framework. It's the emotional investment in this child which is lacking. And as a direct result, children and teens become emotionally needy and have no choice but to fall back on triggered behavior instincts to cope with their life circumstances. Yet when a critical mass of teachers in a school or members in the family know more about behavior instincts and emotional development, their compassion is ready. Compassion engages the heart. So we get it, that chronic misbehavior is actually a stuck survival instinct like fight, flight, or freeze, or social instincts which try to preserve personal boundaries using appease, approach, and avoid. But as soon as we adults get curious enough to ask, what do you need? We are using an attachment lens by standing inside relationships. The attachment point of view reframes instincts so we can see how these are truly relationship dynamics in Counterwill, Homebase, Shyness, alpha complex, dependence, and defensive detachment. The Neufeld Institute has great workshops and materials on these concepts, and this is part of a large body of work by Gordon Neufeld and his institute in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Gordon Neufeld coined the construct Counterwill. Counterwill uses an attachment lens to reframe the instinct to fight. So that's the first instinct I want to talk about, counterwill. The label fight might be used reasonably well when we describe children or youth in altercations with each other. But it's not insightful to say infants fight or elders fight. I think it is more meaningful to recognize we all have a will of our own. And then this explains why toddlers will demand, refuse, and tantrum, and why elders will set demonstrations against social injustice. If we use the word counterwill, we can more fully appreciate the instinct to resist coercion. This is a wonderful instinct. However, if kids get stuck in counterwill, then emotions, feelings, moods, and attitudes are stuck in no, resisting, rejecting, being rigid, and not adapting to changes or challenges. Behavior interventions will never be effective with counterwill. Instead, counterwill calls for personalized attachment patterns to employ the spirit of workarounds or do-overs instead of battling strong will directly. The second instinct, home base, is the attachment view of flight. Flight is running away or bolting, but the construct home base reveals that kids don't actually run away from home. Instead, they run toward safer spaces and more welcoming relationships. Home base includes psychological ways to feel safer, like hiding or turtling to shut out chaos and cruelty, and self-soothing to create a calming space to fantasize about love and acceptance. Being stuck, seeking home base, is to feel lost, lonely, and suffer separation anxiety. Effective attachment patterns for home base will provide safe spaces, safe people, and safe activities, so kids feel their belonging many times every day. The third instinct, shyness, is the attachment view of freeze. If we can appreciate there is safety and shyness as an instinct for young children, then we can understand how the village of attachment safeguards children from being influenced by outsiders and strangers. Shyness is therefore natural and necessary for emotional development. Emotional maturity creates a person who is less shy than before, although we will always experience our shyness again. In brand new settings or with a new group of people that we've just met, at least this is normal because it's smart to listen more than talk in new situations. Also, we are never shy when we are with our people, when we are among our closest relationships. Kids stuck in shyness will hide their emotions, appear emotionless, which is not the truth. Everyone has emotions all the time. Be afraid to speak, remain voiceless, and not risk giving opinions. Shyness is common, but it can also be an indication of significant mental health risk in older children and teens. Like, for example, selective mutism is debilitating shyness, and trauma inflicted by cultures of war and abuse can render one voiceless for a lifetime and silence shame-filled secrets over several generations. Attachment patterns that adults need to use to ease shyness will access goal setting. Now, the fourth instinct. Alpha complex is the attachment view of appease. To be alpha in attachment relationships is to be a responsible, responsive, dependable leader who is emotionally available to children. However, when adults underfunction in their roles of safeguarding, parenting, and teaching kids, the alpha instinct is triggered in children and teens, and this turns the relationship upside down, putting the child or teen in charge. It is simply not safe to allow kids to take over, order adults around, and tell adults what to do. Okay, we can be patient with outspoken kids or rudeness at times. And certainly we must give kids legitimate opportunities for leadership, but we can't blame kids if we ourselves are not stepping up to the plate to be a leader in the family or the classroom. Sometimes we have to clearly say, I'm in charge, but it's more effective to take charge, be in charge, be so full of great ideas and new challenges for these kids that they naturally defer, respect, and follow your leadership. Attachment patterns for a stuck alpha complex is mustering our own alpha presence to relax kids into the trust necessary to prime their instinct to depend on adults. Because this fifth instinct I want to talk about is dependence. Dependence is the attachment view of approach. Attachment is the rest and protect kids require to depend on adults and connect with others. This is the instinct to trust a caregiver, deferring, looking up to an adult for guidance, judgment, or explanation. This is the will to follow and learn. But when children are stuck in this dependence instinct, they are overly dependent, clingy, anxious, lack resourcefulness. They cannot initiate friendships, and so there's a lack of resilience generally. The attachment patterns for stuck dependence employs generous invitations for more depending. So is that counterintuitive? Well, think about it. If we try to force independence, kids get even more clingy. Instead, adults must be confident and patient to know that development will take its own natural course, and this child will want to be their own boss because they have confidence that they won't lose their attachment with us. And the last instinct, defensive detachment, is the attachment view of avoid. The word detach helps us to understand those kids so avoidant of relationships that they are actively working to disconnect and back out of relationships. Kids will isolate physically or hide in the psychological sense by camouflaging emotions or hardening their feelings, refusing to participate, and not be willing to partner with other kids or work in groups. Children who hear or feel they are not good enough, not skilled enough, not smart enough, not correct enough, or not likable enough will lose the will to try. So the attachment patterns for defensive detachment rely on investigating emotional wounds. And I'm talking about social justice issues like neglect, abuse, ethnic stigma, and discrimination, which effectively wound relational capacity. Truly, victimization in any of this child's relationships or in the broader community can activate defensive detachment. Yet when emotional wounds are recognized and addressed, children and teens will once again grow their relational capacity. But look carefully, because detaching is common among kids with sensory oversensitivity, and so is characteristic of children and youth with autism. That needs careful examination. Oh, the third deep dive tackles resourcing. This is a deep and wide framework to get your head around, but it's a worthwhile project because relational capacity is a big slice of emotional development, my favorite topic.